And we are live. Hello, everyone, and thanks, Neil, for joining me today. Really appreciate this. So let's kick off straight away. Tell us a bit about yourself.
Hi, Mark, and hello, everyone. Yes, my name is Neil Martin. I am the owner of SSK Aberdeen, but I have had over 20 years' experience in selling and sales. Most of it good, some of it bad, and quite a bit of it mediocre. So I'm delighted you're allowing me to come along to share some of my highs and lows and some of my secrets. And I look forward to telling you all about my 20 odd years. I've done a lot of food selling. I've worked in different industries such as plant hire, food and beauty and healthcare.
Nice. So give us maybe a whistle stop tour of your career, because I mean you've been in the game for going on two and a half decades, haven't you? So
Yeah. So
tell us about, how did you get started?
It was you can jump in when I start going on too far, but I left school. I went to Australia, played professional cricket. Didn't do very well. Came back and got my first job in the pub industry, which was for Whitbread, and I spent 10 years working for Whitbread. Became their bar manager, and I did their sales training down in Luton, which I know we're going to touch on later on. Then I went to university because I felt it was a glass ceiling. You had to have a degree to progress within that Whitbread. So I went to university, got my management degree, and then came out and got a master's in IT. And my first role was actually for a student plant hire, which sadly no longer exists. That's a graduate role. And again, I went down to Pareto Law down in Wilmslow and did their sales training, which I know we spoke offline that, the first 4 hours of my sales training was how to answer a telephone. And then from that, Brake Brothers came calling, which Brakes is one of the leading food service industry suppliers to in the marketplace. Whitbread had used Brakes. I knew their products. I was an area sales manager covering Aberdeen and the Shire. And then I actually became their business development manager or hunter in the hunter role, if we go all Americanized. And I covered half of Scotland, did that, loved it. And then I moved on. So that was all corporate. And then I moved and worked for a family firm selling salmon in the very north of Scotland.
Wow.
And that was a totally different, because corporate, it was all Excel spreadsheets and you were a number rather than a person. Really enjoyed doing that. And then kind of ended up working for a company down near your neck of the woods, Mark, down at Oco Foods, selling high-end venison, langoustines. And that's been, and then the last couple of years we've been working in the third sector, moved on, doing something I'm passionate about, which is raising money for charities. And that was but again, COVID came along sadly, and third sector really took a real hit with the third sector, with funding. And during that time, sadly, I lost both my father and my father-in-law, and I did slideshows for funerals, and then that's where SSK kind of came about. And now I support 23 charities throughout the UK, helping them raise money. So that was a whistle-stop tour, said with about 2 breaths. For you, Mark. So that's kind of my background. But as you'll see from my background, I've actually attended a lot of sales training over the 20 odd years. And one question I did ask you at the start before we were offline was, can you teach 25 people to be exactly the same, almost robot? And the answer is simply no. You're asking somebody in Aberdeen to go in and do the same sales pitch as somebody in Birmingham, to somebody in London, to somebody in Wales. We're all human. It's human to human, not robot to robot, in my opinion.
Yeah. All right. I'll jump in and give you a chance to take a breath if you like, get some oxygen in the system. Yeah, go for it. So that's interesting. It sounds, from what you've said to me before, it sounds like you've done a lot more sales training than I have actually over the years. Talk to me about that, because you said you mentioned a few names before we went live where you've had training, but it sounds like a lot of it was very similar. It was like, here's the 7 steps of this.
It's very much 24, 25 people in a room. There's your workbook. Number 1, step 1, introduction. So you go to the place and introduce yourself. Step 2, empathy. Build empathy and it was very much this kind of journey. And whether it was 6 steps, 7 steps, I know, one company that I did do work training with, and I'm not going to name because for legal reasons, because I might get into trouble, but they actually flew people up and you were shadowed to make sure that you were doing the 7 steps of selling. Now, that's great if you weren't dealing with a human person or a person who had an objection, or who was you're dealing with a customer at the end of the day. Customer should be right, always right. But because you've got somebody sat next to you taking notes on whether you've built empathy with the person, you're not actually 100% listening to the customer. You're kind of worried about what that person might be thinking. And sure. We came out of one call, and I got the order, I'm only scoring you 5 out of 7. I was like, and I objected to because you didn't build. There was something. I said, you're speaking a load of. Did you not see we've got a 4-figure order? The customer's delighted. I'm delighted, and you're going to go back to my boss saying I only scored 5 out of 7.
Yeah, but you don't know what football team they support. You don't know what their favourite colour is. So come on.
Well, yeah, we're both sport. Lucky I put my blue one on today for you. So we're both wearing blue. But yeah, you just don't know, and that's what it's all about. I get the need for structure in selling. Don't get me wrong. I get the need for being organised and process, but there's got to be some fluidity to it, because at the end of the day, as we keep saying, it's human to human, and it's not just a textbook to textbook. Yes, you can certainly be in a classroom and learn skills, but until you're in the real life experience, everyone's so different, and that's why I love what I do now, but also why I loved selling, because everyone was different. Every selling opportunity is different.
No, it's true. And if you, like you say, it's good to have a process, good to have structure, methodologies, all this good stuff, frameworks, but you need to be adaptable in the moment.
Absolutely.
And if you're not, and I've seen this applied to sales meetings, job interviews, and things that, yes, preparation is key, but if you're over prepared and you're being very rigid with your approach, as soon as they throw you a curveball. Yeah.
And it could be because exactly what you say, Mark. And it could be the person could be, they could ask you, just as you said, what's your favorite football team? And you're worried about, right, I remember they were formed in 1987, the chief, and you end up just completely flummoxed by what should be an opener for 10. A straight answer, a straight question, even. So it's a bit odd.
Yeah. So you started SSK Aberdeen in the last couple of years, and we'll definitely touch on that in a bit. But so really, you're still, you haven't been out of a formal sales role for all that long, really, have you? So so what have you seen, if anything? I mean, what changes have you seen over the years? Think about early in your career going through. There's some big changes you've seen.
I mean, the changes, the technology has been the biggest change I've seen. When I first started many, many years ago, you took an order and you went to a phone box and you phoned your telesales, and you make sure your car had a pocket full of 20, 50p's. Now it's all done by, an online platform. Is there a need for sales reps going in to see chefs, for example, where the chef can now order online? Which I hope there will always be the need for a salesperson, because actually, you need the human interaction, and sometimes the consultative selling part of you want to be able to tell the person the benefits of the product. That's something online. If you just look up, oh, that looks great, pick it. But if somebody can actually tell you the benefits to it, or you might have a question that you're not sure about, but at least if you have somebody who face to face, that's a benefit for it, I think. Technology's changed tremendously in the time, not all for good, because as I said, if we all end up going self-scanning, self-service, or online, you end up losing human interaction. And I think during COVID, that's what we've lost as well. Like, actually meeting people face to face, it's kind of, everything's become very much, we'll just do it on the computer now. And that's sad to see, because, and also what I do miss, sorry, Mark, is being able to play golf on a Friday afternoon with my colleagues. That was always a good sort of little perk that we used to have.
Interesting. Yeah. But yeah, tech, you mentioned the salmon, the fishery, you said it was all spreadsheets, right? So even just a CRM is a big change, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And the different types of CRM that you get now, and like one of the previous roles had 3 different CRMs, because one was for, and I might give the game away here, but one was for frozen, one was for ambient, and one was for, and none of the systems matched. So you had to log in, and that was 10 odd years ago that was happening. So yeah, just different times.
And sorry, just to go back to what you were saying about the training as well, you mentioned 4 hours on
how to answer a telephone. Yeah, and that
can you remember what was that then? What kind of?
So basically, as a graduate, we would be phoning up. It was plant hire company. We'd be phoning up, asking to speak to the foreman, asking to speak. And so, yes, good morning. My name is Neil. I am the area sales manager for blah blah blah. Would it be possible to speak to blah blah blah, or the person in charge of hiring the plant hire, please? And then you'd probably get, and then there was a script to follow. Would it be possible? I am in the area, luckily, next Tuesday. Would it be possible to come and see you? And then say, I can't do Tuesday. So then you go down to the next page, offer other dates. I'm actually back in the area on Friday or the following Monday. And eventually you'd end up with and there's 4 hours of that kind of workbook, and you'd score out where you've been. And yeah, I know how to answer a telephone. But yeah, that was one of them. The other funniest one, a quick story I've got for you, Mark, when I did my personal license training down in Luton for Whitbread before I got my pub, we also did a morning session on body language, how to pacify somebody who's drunk or aggressive, or in the trouble side of things. And it's all about body language, and it's all about don't go up, and it's all about being open and try and diffuse the situation.
Yeah.
And so we did that, and I flew back to Aberdeen, and I went back down 2 weeks later to complete my training. And we had a really lovely. He was a Polish guy at a pub in London, and we turned up to Luton, and he had one of the biggest black eyes I have ever seen. I was like, "Are you okay? What happened?" And he, without any irony, he said, "Well, I was actually practicing the passive body language during a fight, and the guy just hit me flush in the face." I was like, "Well, obviously that training didn't go well then." And again, that very small little snippet, but it shows you, because he'd been thinking that, well, thou shalt not, I will stand here and be, and he just took a whack in the face. But there was no fluke. There should be a point where you say, actually, that's good in theory, but I need to either duck or move out of the way, or so that was at the very start of my sales career 20 years ago that story happened, and it continues now that everything shouldn't be structured. Yes, there's a reason for structure, but don't live. Don't. Oh, I can't do that. You've got to have fluidity.
Yeah.
He had a cracking black eye though.
Na zdravia. Yeah. So the structure thing and the process thing, because it's funny really, because I come at this from a slightly different angle, because I don't want to name names. I've worked with businesses where there is a lack of structure and process to the extent that it becomes a detriment to the business, to sales performance and so on. And it's just a free for all. So I am big on process, big on structure and all that stuff, but I totally appreciate that you can take it too far and you become very rigid in your approach. And so, on LinkedIn, you see this a lot now. There's a lot of posts around, how to open a cold call effectively, what makes a great email, different templates, different things like that. And again, I think there's value to that. But do you think, particularly for people who maybe don't have years and years of experience, or maybe in the first few years of their sales career, what's your take on that? Because I think there is value to it, but do you think maybe it puts people too much into a box?
I think it's like, when you get instructions for tablets or Paraceal, you don't read the whole sheet. You don't read every single instruction, all the funny, you read the beginning, you read what you need to know, how many doses, how many tablets a day, any side effects. And that, like you say, with the email template, brilliant. Take what you need to know, but don't over-egg it. Do what you need to know and move on. And I've slightly lost my train of thought there. Sorry, I was getting excited by my paracetamol thing. But it's just what they don't teach you actually is how to deal with rejection. And that's one thing, in all the training I've done, there was not, because no salesperson will knock on 100 doors and get 100 yeses. No salesperson will knock on 100 doors and even get 100 replies. And sadly, you will not send 100 emails and get 100. If you get 10 emails back from 100, you're doing very well. And out of that 10, if you 2 to even correspond and you get 1 sale, that is quite a good, sort of thing. So I think it's rejection. That was the hardest part. When I parked the car and you're walking around an industrial estate and you go to the door, and the gatekeeper or whoever no, won't see it, no, won't see it, and it can be quite demoralizing. And that's where my one advice I'll give to any salesperson now is to be resilient. Don't take it personally, because I remember the first few times I was out, I took it personally. Because if you do take it personally, you just won't get out of bed the following day, or you might not get out at the same time. You might have the same motivation, and that.
You start to doubt yourself.
But then, of course, you do. And then the flip side, you might just think, "Well, I'm just going to go one more," and that one more might be your golden nugget, and it might be the one that takes your sales up over into your commission. You just don't know what's around the next. You've got to be like a Inspector Clouseau type figure, or maybe that's not the best. You've got to be a detective with
yeah.
I was going to say I'm just probably better on that one, but you've got to have that kind of intuitive instinct to say, well, actually, I'll try that. Listen, if they say no, I've had 42 no's already this week. What's a 43rd going to do to me? That might be the one that gets you there. And one of my biggest highs as a salesperson, and I won't name for other reasons, but I went to this place and I got told they would never use this company. They would never use me. Never. Do not even bother coming back. And I went back anyway, and I dropped off the brochure, and I said, listen, can you do me a favor? I actually live round the corner. You're my last call. I'll drop this off. And I said, Neil, I promise you, I will never use you. I've been with my other supplier for so many years. Said, not a problem. I knew my boss said, this is where, as a salesperson, trust your gut, because your boss or whoever not know your area as well as you do. And I remember my boss said, don't bother going back there because you're wasting your time. You're wasting. And I got a call. This was 9 months after my very first cold call to this place. And he said, Neil, can we have a chat? I've been let down. I know you live round the corner. The kettle's on. Can you? It was literally that kind of, because he'd remembered, went round. And I think my first order for that was over £50,000 at a margin of about 24%. So I made very good commission on that. And that was, and the actual joy I got, and I said to you offline as well, the joy for me for opening a new account is not the first order. And I've said that at interviews, and the people go, oh my God, you're meant to be a hunter and you don't enjoy the first sale. Oh, what's wrong with you, man? But what the process, if you get the second order or the third order and the fourth order, it means you've done the whole package right. You've gone in, you proposed, and your logistics have got the order to the telesales have got, and everything is now working well. So, and that account was worth just over, in the end for me, before I left, it raised just over £600,000. So
that's amazing. And I think that's the difference between a hunter and a scavenger, right? Because a scavenger is just out there to get the scraps, to find, one-off quick wins and stuff like that. Whereas, if you can maybe it's not, because I suppose you are getting into farmer. I don't know, whatever.
No, but that's
you get
where,
what I mean.
That's where sometimes these companies go, I'm looking for a hunter. I am looking for no, you're looking for somebody who can spot an opportunity,
professional,
and will go, and that's a different, but that's where textbooks don't allow that middle ground. It's either black, white, and very rarely do you get any sort of where it's the sort of grey in the middle. But that was one of my very good highs in my role.
Yeah, I love that, because it kind of, when someone comes back to you after that period of time, it gives you that validation that, I did actually make a good judgment to not just desperately try and push something on them that they obviously weren't going to go for. And if you can plant enough of those seeds, then you find that through the duration of your time at a company, then they come back to you. Plus, the thing is, you're building credibility and a reputation. And I think, tell me what you think, but now with LinkedIn, with social, it's even more important to be doing that, because it's not just your 20p's and your 50p's in the phone box, is it? It's
not like you. And I'll tell you another example of that is, would you deal with somebody who, if you went on their Instagram or Facebook or wherever, and is either drunk all the time or is rowdy? That doesn't give a good impression of the person, but the business they're representing. And I think sometimes people forget that you are the person, you are the brand, you are the person you are representing as well. I think people go out, I'm going to do this, that. Well, not, having said that, if you've seen my Facebook for the last 2 weeks, it's just pictures of me by the poolside holding a beer, enjoying the sunshine. So maybe that wasn't the best use of social media. But hey, that's just. But would you use somebody? And that's where it's not just. You've got to be, as a salesperson, honestly, be careful what you post. Don't get into tittle tattle on Facebook or arguments for the sake of arguments on LinkedIn. You have to remain professional at all times, and otherwise it's you, your brand, and the company that are all affected at once.
All right, okay, we're getting a nice little list here together, aren't we? So we're going professional, but I think it's good to have a sense of humour, not take yourself too seriously and be rigid. What was the first thing you said about one more knock on one more door, make one more call?
Yeah, just one more, because you just don't know if that's going to be the golden nugget. It might not be, but one sales job I had was 5 sales calls a day. Another one was 7 sales calls plus 2 prospects. If you're in an urban area and you can walk down the high street, you could probably do 5 calls within 2 hours, say.
Yeah.
So what do you do with the rest of the day? But as a young person, thou shalt do, you shall do. But actually, if I had to look back at myself in my very first sales role, I really wish I had just done one extra, instead of, just, I'll get home at 3:30 on a Friday. Well, no, try and, just that one extra. And I say that hindsight's a wonderful thing. And that's,
What do you think about consistency? Because I think that over time, if you're diligent and consistent with your actions, whether it's knocking on doors, making calls, emails, whatever it is, you start to gather data, right? So you start to know, right, I need to do X number of activity to get X number of the first meetings with someone or whatever it is. Then I need X number of meetings. Yeah. So at a certain point, you can start to reverse engineer it, because you think, right, my target is this much. And then you can work backwards from there based to figure out what you need to be doing. So did you reach that point with any of the companies that you worked for where you had your numbers really figured out?
Yeah, and it actually became you do. It's the food industry is very seasonal, so you would get peaks and troughs. That's fine. November's going to be bonkers because it's come up to Christmas. You need the pre-orders in for all the turkeys and all that. So that. The February, March time, it's all golf clubs, because I was independent, so you go around all the golf clubs and let in, blah, blah. So you kind of learn where that. If you're consistent and you have that time in the diary that you think, well, actually, I know I need to be doing X, Y, Z. But also, if you say to a chef, I'll be back next month, I'll be back next, or you say, I'll be here, just do it. Just do what you say you'll do, and just. The amount of people I've met in sales over the years who blag it, he'll be fine, and
just tell them they're having it.
And it's just, when you talk about consistency, you've got to have, and even now with I'll plug SSK Aberdeen again. I do a weekly charity quiz, but also I know that I need to put a post out on a Tuesday, a post out on a Thursday, and it's not overload. But I know that that's what drives the sales to get the money in for charity. And I've got a process, and I've got the same consistent flyer, consistent wording, and that is, you learn over time. But that's what's helped me, and that's what I need. Whereas if I just put the quiz out and then I'll do a post on a Friday, that'll do me. I might get hit, might not get hit. If you don't do it, and now next week I'll do Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, 3 on a Saturday. That's not consistent. That's just the peaks and troughs, and that's not gonna. And you also come across as a wee bit desperate if you please buy the quiz, please buy from me, please buy from me, please buy from me. That's what I would call the Coca-Cola style selling, where you're going in and just absolutely just the person's not even getting a chance to. They'd actually buy from you to get rid of you, and that is so wrong.
Yeah,
it's like your double glazing salesman. Your double glazing salesman that'll start up, come to the house, you'll look around and you'll give you a quote at £18,000 and you'll say absolutely no chance. Then you'll go, on the computer, well, actually, today with my code, I could do it for 13,500. Then you go, no. Then you'll blow his cheeks out. Then you'll go, well, actually, if you were to buy by the end of today, I could probably knock another 11,000. And you say, nope. At no point does he ask, what is my budget? What is my spend? I know, but that's beside the point. You get there and he said, I'm just going to go out and phone my boss, see what he can do for you. He goes out, he comes back in, I could do this. And eventually you get the figure down to 3,500 or 3,800. Both of us have wasted 2.5 hours of our life. And at the end of the day, his credibility is zero because I know he could have told me 3,500, 4,000, 2.5 hours ago.
Yeah.
Or at a point and not start at 18,000 or 17 or wherever that figure was. And you lose credibility. And the point, I know you're looking at me quite blankly now, Mark, because I've gone off on a tangent.
No, not at all. I'm listening.
Yeah, I'm joking.
I'm actually thinking about experiences I've had in the early days when I was doing telesales.
Yeah. And it starts. But my
manager, that kind of thing.
Yeah. But what I was trying to point, my first sales mistake in the food, I went in with price only. That's all I did. Because at the end of the day, a chip is a chip, a cake is a cake, a chicken nugget is a chicken nugget. Doesn't matter which company you buy from. That's one of the biggest mistakes I ever made in sales is going in with price. Because all you're doing, that's your tree. You chop a bit of price off. Your competitor comes in, does the same. You chop a bit more. You chop a bit more. End of the day, you're just hurting each other and your margin. And you've got to sell a lot more. And if you just go and watch it, the benefit of this chip is, it's a chip away chip and it'll cook and it'll last under the bin. Bum, 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 bum. And suddenly the chef goes, oh, well, I need that. You've not mentioned price at all. So
because otherwise you're just viewed as a commodity, aren't you? And you're just
exactly, and you're just viewed as somebody that you could be easy to respect. Yeah.
And do you think so when you were talking about salmon, for example, I was thinking about the power of narrative as well. Yes, you want to talk about value and the benefits and the outcomes and so on. And I suppose as a supplier, it's very important. I know from working in distribution that often it's something as simple as how quickly do you get back to them when they ask you for a quote, or how reliable is the information you're providing. But it's for something like food or FMCG generally, it's the narrative part of it. So if you're selling to a fancy restaurant in Edinburgh and you're selling them salmon from way up north somewhere, you could talk to them about the pristine
provenance,
the migration of the salmon back into the
You're absolutely right, and people buy from people, but people love a story. They love to know that they're helping somebody or helping it or doing, and it's not been. One fish supplier would used to, and this is catch a fish with Peterhead, drive the van all the way down to the middle of England to fillet it to drive it back up to Aberdeen. Now that's a prerogative, I suppose. But when you could go into them and say, well, actually, the salmon was caught, it was landed, it's Peterhead, and it'll be on your doorstep within 2.5 hours, freshly caught that morning. And you could actually tell a couple of times, you could tell the boat, who the skipper was, and it just adds to the whole. And it was just, it was good fun doing that. Difficult because, baked beans, 39p, end of. It's a tin of baked beans, for goodness sake. But actually fish, and this is what I never appreciated before going to Sam and all the fish I used to sell. Obviously, it's supply and demand. So if your boat goes out and doesn't catch it or hardly anything, the average cost of it will shoot right up. But you can't give a flat price. But see, some chefs and some owners want a flat price. So you kind of had to learn to kind of take almost a punt. You go, well, it's coming in at 119 a fillet just now. But I know it's going to go up to 159 a fillet, but it'll come back down. So if you're happy with 130 a fillet, that's your price the whole year round. But you can never guarantee because bad weather, fish don't come in, and it becomes a very kind of fluid. And you're having to, and that's where relationship building, especially in that sort of industry, really is important because you're having to explain to chef or owner or the person that does the finances why the fish is now almost double the price that it was. Well, it's spawning season, or that's why fish are littler and you get less and it just honestly opened my mind because beans that are set tin, job done, no problem. But fish was such a fluid. So if you have the narrative, come back to your original question of about 25 minutes ago, the original narrative, if you have a narrative to a chef and say, well, actually this fish is caught here, the boat was that, price doesn't, because they then put into catch of the day, it was caught and landed at Peterhead or freight, blah 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 blah, delivered hand, and it just becomes a totally different.
Did you say caught in London? I don't think I'd want to.
No, definitely not caught in London, Mark. No. No. The cotton landed. I meant to say maybe.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
The Aberdeen accent came out. So, but you've got hand dived scallops from the west coast. Deep and then you get that, and you get and the venison from up north, and you're suddenly building a picture. And the menu suddenly, instead of saying salmon, blah blah, they put a couple of words in. It just adds to the appeal for the customer and stuff. So yeah.
You're making me hungry talking about venison and scallops. Like I haven't had lunch yet. You're not helping. I'm salivating just thinking about it. Interesting. And the thing is as well, passion's a big thing. Well, sorry. So before I get onto that, what you're fundamentally talking about here is trust, right? You're building a relationship with that person, not just for the sake of it, because it feels nice and warm and fuzzy to have rapport, but you need them to trust you. So when you say, listen, set that median price or whatever for the year, they trust that you're not just trying to
get an extra.
Exactly. So that I think that's a skill set in itself, isn't it?
And
managing that.
One of my roles, I had the manager out with me, and we went up, funnily enough, to the north of Scotland, and his, it was all about let's just get in. We went to a tea room, and let's just get the order. Why are you not buying from us? Why not? And he just didn't get that. And the poor lady was just, every day I got an email on that BlackBerry, which was fashionable then. Ding, ding, ding. Please go and see Rosie, blah, 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 blah. So off you go. See, by the fifth time being, she's like, Neil, what do I have to do to get rid of you? So that's not trust. That's somebody say, well, I'll buy it, but I'll never buy again just to keep you off my back. That's not trust. Whereas I went to another place, and you go in and say, here's what I can do for you. Here's what the thing, and it becomes a two-way. You're actually listening to what. I don't know anything about X, Y, Z. Well, actually, I don't know, but I know somebody who does know all about meat, so I'll get them, and you build this kind of network of trust, and then suddenly when your competitor comes in, with a brochure saying, well, I can knock, X amount off. The chef or the owner, whoever at that point says, well, actually, no, because actually Neil's going to be, Colin that does the meat, he does Greg that does hygiene products, all for the same cup. But my network is now stronger, and the trust is built up between two of us. But then the flip side of the coin, sometimes logistics go wrong, sometimes there's short orders, and you've got to phone up. And if you've built that trust with the chef or the owner or whoever, especially in food, and you say, actually, I'm sorry, your tin of baked beans isn't turning up today, because you've told them direct. It's fine, knowledge is power.
Of course,
whereas if you pretend not to read the email saying that there's this place isn't, and you just pretend, and then you get the phone call when you're on the golf course at 3:30 on a Friday, and the chef's like, "Where is my order?" Because you've not, and you're totally right, all about trust, process and trust.
Do you think early on in the process as well, a lot of that comes from the questions that you ask? And really, I talk a lot about curiosity. It's really important to go in and really seek to understand, first and foremost, what are their objectives, what matters to them, what does success look like for them, what they want to be, they're at A, we can get them to B, but what are the sticking points in the middle?
How do we get to absolutely?
Because that helps as well, doesn't it? Surely.
Yeah, and it's every sales training I've done. It's all about the rugby post with the bottoms on it. Do you know? So it's a how is the rugby post, and then who, why, where, when, why, and it's all the W's on top, and it looks like bottoms on a rugby post, and that's your open questions. I always remember that. And another thing I would say that I used to do was very guilty of was assuming a lot. Do you know? I'm going into a tea room, so I'm assuming it's going to be that.
Yeah.
Not actually listening or thinking or even doing research. Saying, well, actually, it may be a tea room during the day, but actually, it's a blooming good bistro at night. So, but because it says tea room, you think, well, it's just going to be, and you actually miss out 2/3 of your catalogue because you're already in your head thinking, well, tea room,
and what you're saying about trust and relationship, I think sometimes you say more with the questions you ask than with the statements that you make, right? Because even if you did know, we prejudge, we assume, and we shouldn't. But with the tea room, for example, even if your assumptions are 100% correct, simply going through the process of asking the question demonstrates to that person that you do actually give and you are interested in knowing what they're all about, right?
And I suppose with that, we're talking about difference between then and now. I suppose even the social media, you could hop on your phone now, go to that and say, oh, actually, that too. Oh, look, they've got a special of X, Y, Z, or they've got X on, or, you know, whereas before you were literally rocking up at the door, having a quick squint at the menu in the window and trying to work out, right, I sell that, jam portion, butter portion, milk, that. And then and that's kind of what it was back then. It was just a totally different,
I love it.
you know.
Awesome.
And then when you're working for these, and you'd have the Ashford and Kent, they would come up with product ideas, new ideas, and then we would all get commission if we sold X amount of brand new products, you know. And they'd be like, oh, this goes back a wee while. Mexican street food, which, you know, I'm going into rural Aberdeenshire. They don't want to know about Big Al's Burgers or Mexican street food. They want to know about meat, that. And then you're going to, and they said, what? And then I remember one time we had to, our promotion was on microwavable burgers and chicken nuggets. And I bless you, and I tell you this is what. So there's obviously my patch was Balmoral and the staff quarters of the Queen up at Balmoral Castle. Nice. So you had to go in, and, you know, I was tasked with selling chicken nuggets and microwavable burgers. Absolutely no chance I was going to make commission on that product, because you're going into, like, they're looking for foie gras, they're looking for high end. I'm going in with a plastic thing saying, here's Big Al's Burger, please buy from me. But
Neil's Nuggets.
Yeah, it'd be my luck that I would go into a vegan restaurant and try and sell them the chicken nuggets. That wouldn't be work either. But no, so that was kind of, but that's where the not knowing your local market, not knowing your, you know, that's also very keen, is to know what's on your area. And it's just one of these things. I wish, you know, when you're a young person, you get your sales car, you get well, it used to be a box with files, but now it's a laptop and everything's all digital. And then you're driving, you've got the arm out the window, you think you've cracked it, you're doing these, you're going, but actually you've got to just keep, you know, just the process and trust. And I know I've said this, one of the biggest lows of my sales career. While we're talking about the car and stuff, you know, I made an appointment to see an owner and a chef 4.5 hours away from Aberdeen. And I told my boss I was really excited, because I think this is going to be the crackerjack. This is going to take me over my commission. And obviously my commission is my boss's commission, and we're all giving it thumbs up. So anyway, I did no prep. I was young, I was naive, I had no prep. I jumped in the car, 4.5 hours, and it wasn't the best roads. Got to the place, it was all locked up, door closed. So I phoned the number. Oh, I've totally forgotten. I've gone down to Edinburgh for the day. I can't see today. So then you're back in the car, back through rural Scotland. I'll stop off at this place. And because it's a seasonal place, went in, they wouldn't see me. Oh, Neil, if you'd phoned for the appointment yesterday, I've made time for you, but can't see you. And this happened all the way back up. So it's 8 hours into my day. So I've done 4.5 hours down. I'm about a couple hours back up. Boss phones me. Oh, how did you get on? Did we smash it? Did we get it? Not see anyone. What? Oh, obviously you're prospecting, because obviously you've done your research and done the, you know, and that was a horrible. And it's not just it's not the words that made it horrible. It was the silence the boss gave after I said I've not done anything. And there was just silence. And I said, so anytime after that, when I was doing a lot of driving, I'd make sure, just like you said about going from A to B, you know, by a customer, it was also the same for the rep. You go from Aberdeen to, say, I don't know, Pitlochry. So you've got Matty Roop, there's my customer. Well, here's a prospect, but do a bit of research, phone them up, say you're on your route. You might get an appointment, you might not, you might be able to drop stuff off, but at least that way you've got a almost like a pipeline of opportunity. Whereas that day that I drove for 9 hours with no pipeline, no opportunity. And to this day, I never did get the business in that place that I thought was going to be my crackerjack, my golden nugget. So.
Oh dear. So, okay, so we've got a few minutes left. I want to hear a little bit about SSK Aberdeen in a moment, but just to sort of tie this off, is there any other advice, any other tips you can think of, you know, quick snippets for younger salespeople, or just people that, I suppose, just generally, you know, what?
Just generally. So I like to think I've got a great memory, but I don't. So please do write stuff down. And it sounds so simple. And it was one of my first sales colleagues always told me to write stuff down, even if it's inconsequential. You think, but you'll never know when you might need to that bit. Always have a clean car, because a clear car because I was guilty. I'd have minstrels or Maltesers or a sandwich or stop off, bottles of juice. But the more cluttered it gets, the more cluttered your mind becomes. And actually, clear car, because you're a professional. So if you park your car up as ABC rep, somebody walks past and has a look at their car and they just see an unorganized mess. That's not good. A, it's not professional, but B, it's just not good for your mindset. And then working from home, have clear and just that. Have a process, but please listen to the person you're speaking to. I know I can speak and I'll keep speaking and I really take a breath, but actually listen to what the person's saying. Do you know? Because what they might object to might actually not be the objection at all. It might be something completely different. And at the end of the day, we are all human. So that person that you've had the no from, or the objection, or that, they might just have had a bad day. Do you know? Their football team might have lost a game that you don't know about. Their favourite star on Dancing on Ice might have been knocked out. You just don't know what's in people's background, so that when you rock up and they're like, no, get low like that, it's not, so that'd be the kind of, and just don't take things personally. That's another big tip, because when I get, the first few times you get told no, it is heartbreaking. You're so pumped, just like, I'm going to win this. This could be my commission. This will be the next. No. And sometimes
you've already spent the money in your mind before you.
Yeah, of course you do. And you don't, and you do. And that's the other thing. So, that's kind of the ramblings of me. So, maybe I'll have a podcast called that, maybe, Mark, the ramblings of me.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I think Neil's Nuggets sounds good to me. I think we should stick that.
As long as they're golden, that's all.
No, they are. No, I think there's a lot of good advice there. It's fundamental stuff, but I think it's stuff that maybe we do neglect. And I love the idea of writing stuff down. I've got pages of scribbled notes. Yeah. Some of it I refer back to, some of it I don't. But
Mark, you could be in 2 weeks' time. Somebody might say something like, I think, and then there it is, right, bang, that's what it was. Yeah. And even in a food sense, and I know it sounds, before we finish up, in a food sense, it could be like the chicken nuggets, we'll go back to nuggets, they cook at 160, they hold for that. I don't need to know that in the daily information, but when I go into a call and the chef says, I don't know if I'll use a chicken nugget. Well, actually, it's, wait a minute, well, it's got that. There you go. You've then become an expert to the person, and that's brilliant. And with becoming an expert, you become trust, and if you get the trust, you become, and it's like a snowball. But the flip side, if you don't have the knowledge, you don't have the trust, you're not going to build a relationship, and you won't get the sale.
Thanks, Neil. That's great. That's great. Brilliant. So tell us a bit about SSK Aberdeen, and anything else. What's big on your mind at the moment that you're working on?
So SSK Aberdeen, it's a home of downloadable quiz packs, musical bingo. I love rock and roll bingo. Word searches, sweepstakes. My website, sskaberdeen.com. It's a platform for anyone looking to raise money for their favourite charity or organisation. 10% of all income goes direct to your chosen charity. I do a weekly quiz in which £3.50 from the £5 goes direct to your chosen charity, and the rest goes into a pot that we use for prizes. And I think I've supported 32 charities overall in the year that I've been operating. I've got 23 that's on my website just now. But also, what I would like to say, if anyone does need any, wants to speak to me or any advice, please do. It's neil@sskaberdeen.com. And even if it's just to find out about my golden nuggets or anything else, I'd be more than happy to answer any questions or any queries. Because you mentioned it earlier on, you have to be passionate about what you do. And I get up at 6, 7 in the morning, write quiz questions, do bits and pieces. To me, that's not a job. That's something I'm really passionate about. Whereas if you get into sales and you're in the wrong job, or you're not passionate about the product, you won't get up at 6, 7 o'clock in the morning. It'll be a chore to go and drive to sell salmon because you don't like fish, or that. You've got to have an interest, a passion, because if you don't, it'll come across. You may read the script well, you may be a good actor and play poker well, but if you don't read, you've got to have that bit of fire in your belly so that when you're speaking to the person, they know that you know what you're talking about.
Wow. What a note to end on. I love it.
There you go.
Fire in your belly. Brilliant. Thanks, Neil. Really
no problem. Thanks, Mark.
Cheers. Take care.
Cheers. Bye-bye.